Teaching Series Framework, Ezekiel 40 to 48. Introduction, short and clear. Purpose. We are studying Ezekiel's vision of the Millennium Temple to understand God's end-time plan. Key themes. The Millennium Temple is not another atonement. It memorializes Christ's finished work. Animal sacrifices continue as teaching and covenant reminders for new generations. The 1,000-year reign begins after the second coming of Christ. In Ezekiel 40, the vision is focused on measuring the dimensions of a future temple complex, its walls, gates, courtyards, chambers, portico, and altar. The prophet is shown a detailed architectural plan by a heavenly figure with a measuring reed, symbolizing precision, order, and God's design for worship. The sanctuary itself is measured, the holy place and the most holy place, altar and priestly areas. Measurements include the altar of burnt offering and the kitchens where priests prepare sacrifices. Precision and order. The exact measurements emphasize that this is not a vague vision, but a divinely ordered plan. Hope and restoration. Ezekiel received this vision during exile, so the temple blueprint symbolized God's promise of restoration and his presence among his people. Scholars debate whether Ezekiel's temple is literal, a future physical temple, or symbolic, representing God's perfect order and presence. The extraordinary precision suggests architectural reality, but the theological depth points to spiritual meaning. In Ezekiel 40, the prophet is carried in visions of God to a very high mountain where he sees a man with a measuring reed and line. The time period in the vision is after the exile, pointing toward a future temple that had not yet been built. Historical backdrop. Ezekiel was writing during the Babylonian exile, around 573 BC. Jerusalem's temple had been destroyed, so this vision comes as a promise of restoration. Visionary time frame. Ezekiel is shown a future temple complex, not the one destroyed, but one that represents God's renewed presence among his people. Prophetic significance. Many interpreters see this as pointing to the Messianic age, sometimes called the millennial kingdom, when God's glory will return and dwell permanently with his people. What's happening in chapter 40? A heavenly figure begins measuring the temple compound, walls, gates, courtyards, chambers, and the sanctuary. The act of measuring symbolizes God's precise order, holiness, and restoration plan. Ezekiel is essentially being given a blueprint of the future temple, which unfolds across chapters 40 to 48. So, the time period in Ezekiel 40 is prophetic and future-oriented. Ezekiel is still in exile, but the vision looks ahead to a restored temple and God's dwelling among his people. Is Ezekiel's temple the millennial temple? Ezekiel's temple vision is often understood as describing the millennial temple, the temple that will exist during Christ's 1,000-year reign on earth, Revelation 20. The extraordinary detail, measurements, chambers, altar, priestly duties suggests a real, physical structure, not just a metaphor. The return of God's glory in Ezekiel 43, filling this temple, points to a future fulfillment beyond the Second Temple, rebuilt after exile, or Herod's temple, standing in Jesus' day. Other views. Symbolic view. Some scholars argue Ezekiel's temple is a symbol of God's perfect order and presence, not a literal building. They see it as a prophetic picture of God dwelling with his people in the new creation. Historical view. A few suggest Ezekiel was giving hope for a restored temple after exile, though the actual second temple built by Zerubbabel didn't match Ezekiel's blueprint. Why many call it the millennial temple. The temple Ezekiel describes has never existed in history. Its dimensions and features are far larger and more elaborate than Solomon's or Herod's temple. The vision includes a river flowing from the temple, Ezekiel 47, transforming the land, something tied to messianic kingdom prophecies. So yes, in most futurist and premillennial interpretations, Ezekiel 40 is laying out the millennial temple, a builder's blueprint for the age when Christ reigns on earth. So, is the millennial temple number 4? Yes, in most premillennial interpretations, the millennial temple is considered temple number 4. The third temple would be a rebuilt temple in Jerusalem before Christ's return, not described in Ezekiel. Ezekiel's temple vision is then fulfilled as the millennial temple, making it the fourth in the sequence.